Hello and welcome back to Much Ado About Rugby. Today we're going to be talking about England. Now, we had a pretty disappointing Six Nations, I'd say, coming fifth. Not exactly the best, considering all of us, well, me and Macsen today only, but Ed as well, thought that we would be winning this year. So coming fifth isn't exactly great. So, first of all, Maxon, what do you think is the number one thing that needs to change in the England setup, squad, whatever, like the way we play? What do you think needs to change there for us to actually get back to our best?
Yeah, I would say the main thing for me is regaining our reputation with referees and also being more disciplined. Because I think in all the games, the whole Six Nations that were marginal, I think the thing that ultimately lost us the games was the discipline. And I think Maritoje was pulled out quite a bit for his ill discipline, especially in the games prior to the France game. And then he pulled it out of the bag in the France game. But I think the France game just shows how well we can play if we are disciplined and structured and
Get things
execute
right,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, what about you?
Well, obviously, I think we have a few stale players in the team potentially. I think there could be a bit of change going on there. Like, obviously, I completely agree. The penalties just like ruins us. Like, we could be like making great forward momentum, and then just like something stupid would happen. It just puts us like on the back foot straight away. It makes a massive impact. But I think also there's maybe a mentality going on with the player selection. Like, they almost, like Elliot Daly, for example. Why is he still even being starting in the England squad? Like, I get the feeling like players like him need competition, and I think that you need to bring in the younger, or not necessarily younger, but the informed players who may be playing really well in the Premiership or wherever, just to add that bit of competition, so they don't think that they are just in the team because of who they are, but they actually need to play for their position. I think that will make a big difference. But I guess that kind of could lead us on to our next bit, which will be, who do you think will or should be in the England starting team or in the squads going forward? Shall we start with the forwards? We can just go 1 to 15, I guess, or like front row. So
Yeah,
who would
sure.
you, from the front row, who would you keep? Who would you change? What are you thinking?
Yeah. Well, first I was just going to say, I think Wales won the championship a lot to do with bringing in young players. I think that's the model that a lot of people need to come in. We saw Callum Sheedy and Louis Samet, who really have been
She,
playing really, really well. I mean, Sheedy as well recently orchestrating the victory over Quins for Bristol, which was awesome. But in terms of the front rows that I'd have, to be honest with you, I think front rows in general, if for England, didn't perform too badly.
yeah.
I think,
I think there's a nice bit of competition in the front row, especially at hooker. Like, I
yeah,
think Jamie George is our best hooker, but Luke Cowan-Dickie is like such good competition for that, because he is also a really good hooker as well and can swap him. But I just think Jamie George is just miles above him
yeah,
in like
yeah.
every aspect.
Yeah, I definitely think Jamie George should be starting. But then again, I think it's good that Cowan Dickey got his run of games, because we saw when Jamie George came off the bench, he ended up setting up a try in the game he came off the bench for, which shows what competition like can do for a position. And like with regards to the props, I mean, like Mako Vinopola, I think he didn't have his greatest championship gains. I think like carrying wise, he wasn't as good as he normally is. In term, I mean,
Do you,
when I
do you
think of
think he
Mako
still has more
Vinopola,
to offer for England?
I think Mako Vinopola has a lot more to show in the England camp for sure. I think we've seen how good he can be with his hands, and really being that ball play up, and similar to well how England used to utilize more like in think that more, but I think Vinopola keeps his space on his skill set.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and
I
then for
think
the
so
other
too.
group, I think Carson
Yeah,
still
Sinclair,
the
I think,
best.
has to start. He's a really great front row. I think he also offers a lot of versatility just in his style of play. Like, he's carrying, he's rucking, he's doing everything you want a prop to do well. But
Mm.
so I think we kind of agreed there. There isn't much change that probably needs to be done in the front row. I think I think our scrummaging is strong, to be fair. I can't even think if we're giving away that many penalties in the scrum. But if we are, like, that's like something that I guess could be ironed out. And obviously, I know Eddie. Well, we know Eddie is looking at like Benabano. He is looking at other options at front row. He's brought in like Tom Dunn. He's capped him. So there are other options coming in. But moving on to second row, this is one that I actually think is kind of a tricky one because we all know Maratoje has to start. Like, even though he's giving away the penalties, he is starting no matter what. Because on his best day, he is one of the best players in the world, let alone the best lock in the world. But it's that other spot. I feel like, is Charlie Ewels the player to fill that? Is Joe Launchbury when he's fit? Courtney Laws? I don't know. What do you think?
I think at the moment, based on fitness, I think actually Johnny Hill, I think is the best to start in that role.
Hmm.
Um, I think he was
What,
playing really, really well.
what was the reason he got dropped? Was it, I don't know if he was like just giving away a few penalties. I can't even remember why he got dropped. If
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he's been decent since he's come into England as a whole, but I don't know. Is he? Do you think he is the answer for the future of England in that lock position then,
Yeah,
alongside Itoje?
I think he can be. To be honest with you, Lord Prince are like far above Johnny Hill at the moment.
Mm,
I think they've been injured, which is why they haven't been around in that setup. But I think Johnny Hill certainly, like, you've seen how well he's played over the last few seasons with Exeter. So I don't see why he can't slot into that role. And he's
mm,
clearly like a really, really good lock.
yeah,
So yeah, no, I think Johnny Hill at the moment for me. Other than that, like Laws and Launchbury, I think we have a lot of riches in the second row position, to be honest. But I don't.
yeah. I
Charlie
think
Ewels for me is just not a bit off the pace.
yeah. No, I don't. Yeah, yeah. I have to agree with that. I think we are missing Laws, especially. I think Laws just adds like a bit of impact. To be fair, just I think you don't realize it until like these players are gone. But I think Laws just makes hits. He just like adds a presence. Maybe I don't know, but
Yep.
I think for sure we know Itoje's staying, but Johnny Hill is a great option as well. Moving on to the back row, this is probably one of the most competitive positions for England, I'd say. I think I'd love to have seen Jack Willis in there as a starting player. To be honest, I actually thought he was like so good every time he came on, but obviously he's been hit with that big injury. Um, and obviously we all love Underhill and Curry. I don't know. You last week you were saying Curry maybe not on his best form.
Yeah.
I think he's been really great. But obviously the big man Billy V at the back. What? Let's start with him. Do you think he needs to stay, or do you need to think he needs to stay in the squad and someone else step in and like try to progress that number 8 position for someone else and develop it for like someone like Don Brandt or Simmons?
Yeah, I think. Well, I think Eddie Jones admitted that he was playing Billy Vanapola, and Billy Vanapola wasn't really like match fit,
Hmm.
and he wasn't quite up to like his reasonable standard based on fitness, which to me is like, firstly, I don't know why you'd start someone if they're not match fit, but I think Billy
Yeah.
Vanapola at like full match fitness, like at his best, as he was against like Wales and France, I thought he was really, really good.
Hmm.
Not to say there shouldn't be the number eights who are given a chance, which I definitely think there should be. I know if Ed was on this podcast, he'd be absolutely going for Don Brandt straight off the bat. But also, obviously, we can't ignore Sam Simmons. Spoke about it a few episodes ago, community, and whether Billy Vanapola gives way for that, who knows really. But I think Billy Vanapola has to keep that A position for the time
Yeah.
being.
Would you like to see? I don't know. I think obviously Don Brandt is the closest to Billy Vanapola in terms of his ball carrying ability. Just a bit of a. They're more similar in their style of play. What I do love about Don Brandt is his ability to offload is actually mad. He actually offloads everything and it just opens up. That's one thing that I've seen in the Premiership. Teams that offload score tries because it opens up gaps so much. And I think Don Brandt does that. And I think obviously Billy V, I feel he used to do that quite a lot, but he just, I don't know, obviously he's not at his best. But how would you think would be if Don Brandt came in kind of under the wing of what's it called, Billy V? And like obviously there's going to be areas which Billy V is far superior, but with that like mentorship, Don Brandt's still young as well. He could maybe help him develop into a world class eight. I know that's
Yeah.
what I'm actually thinking. Maybe even Don Brandt would be a better fit over Simmons now. To be honest, even though Simmons does score for days, Don Brandt just creates opportunities and scores as well. It's kind of mad.
Yeah. Well, I think what we're seeing in the Premiership is a lot more teams who are going out there trying to play running rugby and
Mm,
trying to play as you mentioned, like offloading rugby, fast rugby,
the
which is why
best
this
kind of
season, yeah, this season we've seen some absolutely spectacular games. Like literally, I think 2 weeks ago I pointed out of like the 5 games that were on, 3 of them were decided by 1 or 2 points, and
mm,
above 20 or 30 points for each of those games, which is insane.
yeah,
And I think Bristol, I think, have really paved the way for that kind of rugby, and it's really showed the
100%.
rest of the Premiership that like you're going to get success off that. And I think Quint have followed well, and I think clearly like Quint have been telling Dombrandt to try and play that kind of rugby, and it's really making him stand out, and it suits him well. Um, so I mean,
Mm.
if England want to go that way, which I think they would need to, if they're going to have a lot of success and try and play more creative rugby, I think he's definitely a player that could be looked at to fill in that position number 8 if they want to play that creative rugby.
Yeah, that would actually be awesome. With the creativity just is so nice to watch. That's the thing. It's just dank. It is just dank. Is there any other players who you think could fit into that back row in the flank position over Curry and Underhill right now or for the future? Because obviously they are still young. They're gonna be there in the squad for the World Cup. Like, there's no doubt about it. They're gonna be getting better. They haven't hit their peaks. So is there anyone else who you think could slide into the squad or maybe like what's it called, get one over them, as you could say?
Yeah, I think they're the 2 best at the moment. I've been quite disappointed with Ben Earl, to be honest. Because I mean, I was expecting very much like big things from him, given the season he's had at Bristol previous to the
Mm,
Six Nations. Six Nations, I don't personally think he stood out as much as I would have liked him to, albeit he only had bench appearances. And I
mm,
think he made a few big plays in terms of like turnovers and stuff in the games he did come on, but I would like to have seen him stand out a little bit more. And I think with regards to like other back row players, I think in particular Benno and Jack Willis when he's fit, I think they're 2 that can feasibly challenge
yeah,
both Underhill and Curry, especially given the fact that like I don't think Underhill's club form is that great at the moment. To be honest, I haven't seen him
mm,
play, and clearly like Bath are very much struggling at the moment compared to
yeah,
playing in a creative Bristol team that suits him. It's a stark contrast, I think.
yeah, 100%. I think creativity just makes it so much. I think we just play a bit of a boring brand of rugby sometimes. Like it's just way more fun for everyone who, even the players, like the fans, everyone. Everyone wants to see like sick tries. No one wants to see like boring play. Everyone wants to see sick. But can I just say, why the hell is Mark Wilson still even like a starting option for England? I just
Yeah.
don't understand that. He just isn't a standout player.
I think what they want. I mean, I assume what he wanted was essentially just like have someone who he for like with Sam Underhill to come in and fill in that role until he comes back in. But for me,
Yeah,
that's a reason why like he's not like for like enough. And I think what England missed quite a lot was just like sheer impact. Where
yeah,
before, like the defense was feared, like we were smashing people backwards. That wasn't happening. And I think the person that led
mm,
that line was both Maro Itoje and Sam Underhill, who are really leading that defensive line. And I think Mark Wilson, for me, just hasn't filled in the boots and the tackling boots of Sam Underhill, which England rely on so much, I think, in defense.
I
Um,
can't think of one play that that Mark Wilson did during the Six Nations that stood out. I'm not gonna lie, I actually can't think of a single play. But anyway, shall we move on to the backs? Number 9,
yeah,
I think Ben Young's actually decent, but he's obviously been around for bloody ages, and Danny Kerr has been in ridiculous form for Quins. So is it? Don't know. Is it time to give? And also Dan Robson, he's not that bad either. He's pretty good. Is it time to give someone else a chance, or are we keeping him just there for the experience? It's good to have an experienced nine to control the flow of the game, but is he the best option for England?
It's this is like the hardest position for me to decide because I'm just like so used to. I think that could even be a downfall. But and it does provide stability, but you have to ask the question like, is it the best selection choice? Which I honestly I'm not sure,
Yeah.
because Ben Youngs makes it hard for everyone watching because like he'll be absolutely atrocious, and then in a game he'll just turn up like and
Yeah.
essentially like dominate the game, like we saw against France. Like he played so well. He literally was like, up against, in my opinion, the best nine in the world, and he outplayed Dupont and he won the game. Like on those performances, it's so hard
So
to go in
mad.
and say he needs to be dropped. Like it's so difficult.
Yeah.
And maybe it is that consistency that needs to be brought into his game, but I think it's just so hard to drop Ben Youngs.
Oh yeah, I think he's still going. That's the thing. Like he has, as you say, he has a streak of like I think maybe one or two bad games. Then he just turns up and like scores like multiple tries or something. Like scores like an important try, like running around a ruck, just like one of those darting runs he does. So it's hard to know what to do with him. I
Mm.
think he's so experienced, I think, but I would love to see Danny. The thing is, Danny Care is like an experienced player as well. So it's like, do you want to be bringing in someone like Danny Care who's just based on form, who might, I don't know, will he even be like in this form in 2 years? That's the question also with Ben Youngs. Is he going to be in this form in 2 years, or is he going to be this good in 2 years, or is he going to, or is it
That's the
really
worry with
just
Danny Care though. It's like you can pick off form, but Danny Care's 34 years old, and it's
yeah,
like where do you draw the line for that? Like next World Cup as a 36-year-old, we're kind of pushing it. If he's playing in the form in 2 years' time, fair enough. But like,
mm,
would you? I'd rather. And I don't know how old Robson is, but I thought in some of the games he's come off the bench, he's been absolutely electric.
mm.
And I would like to see him have a chance, at least starting like the games against Italy. Like, why are we not trying players out in that game? Sorry, like, why is Dan Robson not starting that game? Like,
Yeah, I've no clue to be honest.
it's so
I'd love to see
frustrating.
Harry Randall giving a go as well. Like bringing that
Yeah,
Bristol style play in. Like, why are we not doing that?
yeah.
Give him a go. I think he's
Well,
injured, but
I think he had he had an injury, I think, partway through, which I would have loved to seen him play because
maybe he would have.
I love watching him play.
Yeah, he's quite. I think now is the big debate. Are you playing Ford Farrell, or are you going Farrell 10 centers or Farrell Ford? What are you doing with that?
Yeah, I think the fact that that's even a question this just shows what the main problem is with England, and it is in that centre position. Like we don't have
Mm,
the centre that we need, or the centre that's fit.
mm,
And I think Ed points it out in one of the last episodes. England have a reliance on Manu Tuolangi, as a big ball carrying centre. And not, I mean, we know how good he is. Like when he's fit, Manu Tuolangi is one of the best players in the world. But it just shows that reliance. But for me, I think I like watching Owen Farrell at 10. And
yeah,
that's not to say like I'm a massive, massive George Ford fan. I think if Tuolangi's not fit, for me, it has to be 10 Ford, 12 Farrell,
yeah.
and 13 whoever else,
Is
just
that
not
because we're lacking? Is that because we're lacking the center thing? Would you play? Who would you play at? Who would you play at 13? Slade,
Yeah, Henry Slade, I think. But even so, it's just like 10, 12, 13 Ford, Farrell, Slade. It's just not. There's no
mate.
like.
What do you think? What would you think of Farrell 10? Then either at 12 or 13, Piers O'Connor and Slade. 'Cause Piers O'Connor scores tries for days. It's his. I tell you, his support play is actually
Mm,
mad. His support play is so
yeah,
good. Bearing in mind he is teamed up with Semi Randrandra, who is
yeah,
literally like I think when you're next to someone that good, it does make anyone look sick. It's like kind of a Manu Tuolangi, like anyone who's going to be on like his shoulder, like picking off any offloads, is gonna do well. So I don't know if that could be, but he is also quite a good support player in general. Like I don't know if he should be given a chance or if we should just
yeah.
stick like just the standard we got. I don't know. Is Slade really our best option at 13 right now?
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure.
The thing is, I don't understand where like this. There was we had so many centers that just dropped off the whole scene. Like people
Mm,
like Ollie Devoto. Like what happened with him? Like he's a ball carrier, and like I thought he was playing well. I mean he's a fantastic player for Exeter. Like
mm,
why is he not Piers O'Connor? Like, where are these people? Like why aren't they getting look-ins?
mm.
Like over like I don't want to like diss Ollie Lawrence because I don't think he's been given like the biggest chance, or like
Yeah.
he as we said, like he hasn't been given the ball in space, we feel. But even so,
I think he's very inexperienced. He's like a young player. Like he is literally 21. And like not to say that like every player, not to say that some players his age are doing really well. Like obviously you got Lou Sammy who's like 20 and he's tearing up. But like you have to each player will develop their own speed. And I think he is going to be a really great player for the future. But obviously right now he isn't developing as fast as some of the other top young players, but he does have that ability to when he is in space, when he does get his lines right, when he's not running into tackles standing up, he's going to make it bust through a few tackles. But
mm,
right now, it's probably not the best time for him. But I think he's definitely going to be one for the future. I would love a dog woo in centres, mate. Like what?
yeah,
Like I know, like he's just not even given a chance. Like I don't know if there's something behind the scenes that's going on with Doggery, but he's just big. That's the thing. He's power. Like his legs are fucking massive. Like you can't even deny that. Like him at 13 would be actual class, I think, or even at
yeah,
12. Like
yeah.
I
But
know
this
he's
isn't an
like a
issue.
winger,
I
but
mean, like you mentioned that Ollie Lawrence hasn't developed that quickly. Like, do we think like that's an issue with there's some kind of mental issue within the England rugby setup that means that young players aren't developing as quick in the last year or two? Because I think
mm,
prior to the last few years, we've had a lot of young players developing, and I think Eddie Jones last World Cup cycle in developing players because
mm,
we've had world class players come out of the last cycle, the likes of Curry, the likes of Itoje, who are now considered like essentially the best in the
yeah,
world. But we haven't had, firstly, we haven't had that same development in the back line. And also, we haven't had that same development in the last couple of years. And
yeah,
I don't know whether, I think that's partly to do with kind of mentality issue, but also I think it's an issue with like or like very traditional play, which is to favour forwards, and has meant that like less backs have developed potentially than we would expect or like to. Um, but yeah, it concerns me. The centre position definitely concerns me. And to Alangi, if you're listening, please come back soon.
100%. And he's just a beast. Like, man, the impact he has is just unreal. And I think if we're not getting to a Langy back, we just need to be developing an option there. Like, there's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. Like, it's
Well, he's tried with Lawrence. That's the thing. But the thing is, I mean, as much as we say, okay, Lawrence hasn't been given the ball in space, a lot of the time Tuolangi isn't given the ball in space. But when you're
yeah,
a
and
good player, you
yeah,
make chances, like you make stuff happen, and it's hard to expect that of a 21-year-old. But those are the shoes that he's trying to fill. And I think it's
yeah,
unfair on him as well. People saying, "Oh, he's the Manu Tuolangi replacement." When people watch him and expect him to do what Manu does, but realistically, 99% of players could never do that.
yeah. He's just a different player. I think. That's why I think a dog would be great because he like I heard this thing where it's like Eddie Jones picks players to be in the England squad where they have to be world class at one thing, at least
Mm,
one thing, and a dog ruse is line break. I don't know what Lawrence's is. I don't even know what it could be. Maybe power. I don't even know. But a dog ruse is apparently line breaks, and it just him on a short line, and like
mm.
whoever it is probably not gonna. He's at least gonna like make. He's probably not gonna get dominated. Let's put it that way. But I
Definitely.
think yeah, back three. This is a tough one. I know you were saying I don't know, the other day, you want to see Watson at 15. Who are you putting on? Obviously, we're keeping
Mm.
May on the wing. I think he is just like he's a shoe in. Like he's not going to be leaving the England side for a while. But who would you put on the other wing then if you're putting Watson at 15?
Yeah, it's a good question, to be honest. I mean, like, I'd even toy with the idea of having Daly on the wing.
Right, really?
Because yeah, I don't know. I don't know though. Like, I think if we had alternatives, I'd certainly look at them. I mean, like, we've seen a lot of people drop off again in the winger position. Joe Cocker, a singer. I watched him play
Mm,
yesterday, and for Bath. And as much as Bath are playing badly, oh my days, he hasn't lost it. He's absolute beast. Like he's
Is
still
he?
absolutely killing people. Yeah. Like
To be
what
fair,
happened to him?
he got a big injury just before the World Cup, didn't he? Like his ankle or something.
Yeah. And as much as we joke about it, like Rory McConaughey, where's he gone after the World Cup? Literally, he's coming for the World Cup. He's a great player that should be given a chance, I think. And
Ollie
I don't know,
Thorley.
like Ollie Thorley, like there's so many inform like Jack Noel when he's fit, I think is
Yeah,
would
I think
probably
Jack Noel
fill in.
when he's fit it would be a great answer because we have the power, we have the pace runner of May on the one wing, then having like a power runner on the other wing. I think is really nice balance to have. Just having
Yeah.
no, just he just bounces people and like he's just one of those players who he just if he sees the try line, he's making his way no matter what, and it's just
Yeah,
like
knows
it's
what
his
he plays.
class.
I think to be fair to like just one mention is like Anthony Watson. I think he's probably one of the only England players in this Six Nations that's really sort of proven himself. I know he came back from a
Mm,
big injury. And now a lot of people are saying yes, he's like before people weren't really talking about him that much in Lions contention. I think a lot of people are now talking about Anthony Watson possibly being selected for the Lions above and beyond Johnny May even
mm.
for this Six Nations, which in my opinion has been so good. Like I don't know how he manages it, but it just seems whenever he gets the ball, he just always somehow manages to break like one or
It's his
like make
footwork.
that
His
extra
footwork's
5
just so
yards.
good. His footwork's
Yeah,
so good.
really,
He just makes a step and it just gets like the outside of a player, whether you just can't be quite taken down or something. It just makes meters. I have to admit I was quite doubtful of Watson before this Six Nations, but he's definitely proved me wrong. Like he's been pretty mad. But
yeah, definitely.
I think yeah,
Um,
Daly just
I
isn't the one at 15, and Malin's right now probably isn't. Like Malin's is sick for Bristol though. I don't know.
think the
The thing
issue,
with
Matt.
Bristol is
I
it is
think
Bristol is a bit of like
I
a
was.
wait. You go
Go
first.
on, go on, go on. I was just gonna say, like, I think I'm probably gonna say the same thing, but it's like the point I made earlier was like the style of play that Bristol are playing is really sort of creative, like trying to like make tries, and they have people that are making those line breaks, like Semi Retrada, like
Mm,
Piers O'Connor, who's running those really great support lines. And when you've got a player like Max Malins, who's given that space to express himself around other players that are going to make stuff happen, then I think that's an environment that he thrives in. And this is
yeah.
what worries me about bringing, I mean, topic change, but bringing someone in like Alex Dombrandt, where he's not, England aren't playing that. England aren't playing in that like hugely creative way that he's used to at Quins in recent form. Is he going to be able to carry that form over to England when England aren't trying to play in that way?
Mm,
And we've seen Malin struggle with that because England aren't in a really expressive team like Bristol are or like Quins are, which means that
yeah.
Malins doesn't play in that expressive way. And actually, funnily enough, I think that's why we saw such a surge in form for Max Malins moving from Saracens to Bristol. And I think it's fair to say Saracens play in a similar way to England and aren't
Mm,
massively expressive. They rely on their defense and structure. And Max Malins, I personally, to be honest, I don't think he massively thrives in that environment.
yeah.
Um, he didn't break into the starters. And I think moving to Bristol on loan was the best thing for him. And if I were him, I'd definitely stay because it's clearly where he plays his best rugby.
Yeah. I think 100% agree with you there. Just that maybe that's something where we England need to actually change that's maybe that is the biggest issue for them. They're just style of play. Like we've always been quite a conservative team, but now we need to actually try play essentially like the All Black. Like why are we not like playing like this dank running rugby? It's just sick. Everyone loves it, and it just
Well, that's the
and
thing. The best teams in the Premiership are playing like that at the moment. And I'm always
yeah,
a firm believer in whatever your like domestic league is playing like, which is giving you success, the best
yeah. That
teams,
should be
that's how your
it should be
national side.
reflected. Yeah.
Exactly. And we've seen that in France. That's how France are playing excellently because they're playing like Toulouse do. And like
Mm.
when Ireland have had their best form, they're playing like Leinster do. Wales, we don't talk about the Welsh clubs, but but in general, they play like England clubs do because they're most of
Yeah,
them are and they give space
yeah.
for young players to express themselves, which England I just don't feel have.
Yeah,
But yeah,
100%. So obviously, Eddie Jones is the one in charge of all of this. Is he going to stay or is he to go? What do you think?
For me, he is. He's. I think he's still stay. And I think a lot of England fans are very quick to pull the trigger. And in general, I think just English in general, this is an issue with English sports where people are very quick to blame and quick to say, let's chuck so and so. And I think we can't forget what he did in the last 4 years before the World Cup, making it to a World Cup final. And I think if, for example, he had won that World Cup, one match, which was different, we would not be having any of these conversations now. And I know that's a big if, but it's literally he's
Mm,
played X many games. If one of those games had a different result, we would not be saying any of this now based on all that happened before that. And I think it would be unfair to see him go now based on all the work he's done. He's built England
yeah,
up to the stage they're at. I think he just needs a slight direction change in order for England to really reach the same peaks they did in the last cycle. Well, what do
yeah.
you think, Eddie Jones in or out?
I think based off Six Nations alone, I'm gonna have to say out because what like we can't be accepting that we're getting fifth in the Six Nations. Like as Ed said last week, we are England. We need to be winning Grand Slams. Like is that our player pool selection is far bigger than Wales, far bigger than Ireland, far bigger than Scotland. Yet we're below all those teams, and
Mm.
we're not excelling. And obviously, Eddie Jones said it himself. An international coach has a shelf life of 4 years. He's had his 4 years. Is it time for him to move on? Potentially, but obviously there's a risk of bringing in a new coach and it being even worse. Like Eddie may have a long-term plan where he is trying to give these old players a chance, trying to get his form, but I don't know if he's just too stuck in trying to get back the way we're playing before, maybe rather than developing this new style of play, this new creative style of play we've been talking about today, which will no doubt win us games. Because I think if you're scoring tries, we have defensive ability. There's no doubt about that. Like what is like we just don't have that attacking prowess where we can just go into their 22 and know we're going to be getting a try, which is essentially what Wales have. They have that ability to hit the 22. They got that high percentage for like red zone percentage or whatever it is, where they go into the 22 and they're scoring. And it doesn't matter how long during the game they might be defending, because as soon as they're getting the ball, they are a threat. And that's obviously what's won them the whole Six Nations. And I think, as you said, with the whole Premiership just moving in the way towards this creative style of play, England has to follow that. And if Eddie Jones isn't going to do that, he has to go. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, yeah. I think if he doesn't do that, then he does need to go. And I think I agree with you. I think the what that is the main thing that the Wales have been good at: discipline and executing an opposing team's
Mm,
22. And I think that's come with the fact that if you look at their backline now, wow, it's experienced. Like other than Louis Samet,
yeah,
they've changed their centre partnership, which I think has worked really well for them. Jonathan Davis
no,
at 12 and North at 13 has been a really big thing for them. And I think yeah, I think England just need to try and establish some stability like that.
yeah,
But right now, I think we're struggling, and I think I agree with you. I think if he doesn't implement that kind of creative style of play and try and change something in the squad, I think a lot of people are going to start calling for his head.
yeah,
And I think he's in danger
100%.
of doing that.
And I know it may seem a bit early with only 2 years to the World Cup, but Razzie Erasmus was only 18 months out before he went ahead and won the World Cup with South Africa. It is possible, but I'm still willing to give Eddie Jones a chance. I might
Yeah,
not fire him
that's
if
the thing.
he's good.
I think either you sack him now or wait till the end of the World Cup. Like I think if they're gonna do it, if they're gonna choose someone else and have someone used now in 2 years' time, I don't think there's any in between. Like
Yeah,
for England, for the squad's sake, they need to either do it now or after the World Cup. I feel
yeah.
they'll wait. I mean, he's got time left on his contract, but let's hope he can build something in the next 2 years.
Yeah, 100%. I think for the sake of every England fan, we want to win. But that wraps it up. We're all done for today. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you go and subscribe if you have enjoyed the episode. Quite juicy England one. We got a few things lined up in the works. We got another game show style one coming up, Mastermind. We also got Lions episode coming up, because I know Lions is the hot topic of everything, which we will be doing with Ed as well, and hopefully a pro player as well. So a lot to look forward to. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. And we will see you next time. Bye.